Why would I want to work for a company when I go to a meeting with my manager and it feels like going to the dentist? I don't have a single answer, but I've got some ideas. I do some things that do work. I'll give you a couple. So one of them is, but at the same time, the executives, they're like, okay, I need to show my CEO that I'm confident that I can do this. I can't show my weakness, that my own doubt, because I don't want them to lose faith in me. So it's kind of like they're both sides are lying to each other about the same thing and like just wasting a lot of energy, kind of like the shell game.
And Ross, I'm so happy to have you here.
Thiago.
The first question is, which one is the hardest path? Learning how to sell or learning how to manage a family of 10 kids and a wife?
Giving me a layup here. Oh my God. You said, he's like, Aaron, I'm going to ask you some hard questions. Like, okay.
Yeah, because you have 10 kids and maybe not all the audience know it.
Yeah, it's an interesting fact. I have 10 children. 10 children, yes. We can break down the math. 2 from my wife's first marriage, partner. 5 adopted, 3 biological together. Wow. Right? And 7 of them live with us in Scotland, in Edinburgh, and 3 are in Los Angeles, the older ones. So,
and how did you come up with this idea of having 10 children in your house?
I still don't know, honestly. I still have no idea. It just happened one by one, So got married and there's 2. I had 2 kids from that way right away, and then we just wanted to have a baby right away, and then we adopted one, and then we never had a plan to have a big family. Just I think after 4 kids, or maybe 5, we just thought, wow, it'd be cool to have a big family. And then there's a few years I don't remember much, right? Because at some point we'd adopted a baby, and we had a baby, and we had a lot of young kids. And anyone who has even one young kid, much less twins or a few, I don't think I slept for a couple of years.
Wow.
So I'm just recovering right now from that.
So it's harder to raise 10 children.
It is really, can I say fucking hard? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Having said that, but nothing like having a family, I mean, whether it's a big family or small family, to force someone to light a fire under their butt, including mine, to make more money, to learn to sell, or to take it to the next level. Okay. So I would say that selling isn't hard to learn, it's hard to master. You never do. It's a life skill anyone can use, whether you want to be in sales, be an entrepreneur, or even start a nonprofit.
But what it takes to master it?
I still don't know, because even when you master it, the next year everything changes and there's new things to do, to learn.
So it may be hard to answer what it takes to master, but what it takes to be on the top level of the sales models and players in the field. What it takes to be in the top level.
Well, I don't know about other people. I can only speak for myself.
Okay.
And so to me, it started with starting at the very bottom, right? And I think a lesson for people who are or want to be an entrepreneur, or I may do anything, is that when I was in my late 20s, I started a company, raised a few $1 million in venture capital, and it failed. One of the reasons it failed was because I didn't know how to build a sales team. A lot of natural entrepreneurs can sell because they have to sell themselves to get a company started. That's different than kind of creating an organized sales team. So I hired, and I was like 27, 28 or something, I was young. I'd hired a VP of sales, but when sales weren't working, I didn't know how to fix it. So I had abdicated my understanding of sales. I didn't delegate sales. And so after that company failed, I was like, okay, if I want to do another company, I need to know how sales works. And, you can only learn so much from reading any book, including mine. So I got a job at Salesforce.com. And the only job they had was the most low-level job called, it was just responding to website leads. So I went from being CEO of an internet company and raised venture money to the most junior job at Salesforce. And at that time, today Salesforce.com is a multi-billion. Then it was 150 people, maybe 20 million revenue. And I didn't let my ego or pride get in the way of taking the job that I knew I needed to learn. So it's a way to get paid to learn. So that was a step for me, which was to be in the trenches, doing the dirty work, to learn. And from there,
But like when you entered in Salesforce, you didn't know exactly how to build a sales
I didn't
team,
know
a
anything.
model.
No, I didn't know anything. I
Yeah.
knew. I remember. Yeah, I didn't know anything. No.
And how did you learn it? Because if you didn't know, and Salesforce didn't sell, like it use it to be later on, how did you manage to create a sales model like you did and like you showed me in the book, for example?
Yeah. Well, I think part of it was I knew that I wasn't going there to be in sales forever. I went there to learn. Right. You can go to business school and pay to learn, which is great, or you can get a job and get paid to learn, which is great too.
Incredible.
Just different. It's an attitude. So I went to get a job to learn and to make some money, but most of it was to learn. And I knew that if I go to Salesforce, okay, they have this job. I didn't want to take the lowest level job there, but that was all they had. So, okay, I'll do that. I'll figure it out, and then I will figure something else out there. I will find a way to make my mark. And so took the job. I did really well for a few months. Improved myself, and I proposed, hey, I see this. I talked. So another thing that was really helpful, and I recommend to anyone, in the first few weeks of the job, I went and kind of met people from all around the company. And it was easier than when there's an office, right? In the old days, when everyone was in one place, back in those days. And I went and talked to people in customer support. I just said, hey, I'm new here. I'm Aaron. I'm just meeting people. Like, what do you do? I went to people in customer success and in field sales, and I met the president. I met Mark. I just kind of introduced myself, and I got a better sense of how all the parts of the company work together. And I also learned, oh, hey, there's this problem. Salesforce is trying to go up market to sell to bigger companies. They have this enterprise product, but they're not getting leads for this. They're getting tons and tons of leads for small businesses. Word of mouth. Nothing's working to try to go up market. And it's like, they tried some cold calling. They tried hiring expensive salespeople who had relationships. It was like, I don't know, it's something in me felt like I could try to figure this out. And so I said, hey, I don't know how to do it, but I can do better than what's happening. So let me try it. And they gave me a few months. So I think there was something in me first that was like, I got to know the company and I kind of got to know the basics. And I went and talked to people and found a problem that executives wanted solved. And I said, hey, give me a chance to do it. And they did. And it took 3 or 4 months to come up with the solution with this kind of outbound sales process that helped create basically as many qualified sales meetings as Salesforce.com needed. But that was the work. I think so. That was a part of this type of a belief in myself.
Okay. But you always believed in yourself, or did you improve on that?
I'm always improving. Like there's some places I did believe in myself. Like looking back, I think over the last, at that point, it's hard to say, I don't really remember there. In that case, there was something, but it's also kind of a belief out of ignorance, right? There's something about when I'm young and starting a venture funded company, I didn't know. I was just like, I'm going to try it. And then once that failed, there's a lot more of a pain factor, like, oh, yeah. And then as we get older. So now what's happened is that I didn't really believe in myself as being a father with 10, when we started to 2 kids. But over the years, and it probably took like 7, 8, 9 years, at some point, like I just developed a lot more self-belief, is not just in being a parent, but also in being able to deal whatever problems come up. Like we'll just find some way to deal with it, because with a big family, there are constant problems. I like to say that, okay, someone broke a leg, just put them in the back of take a number, right? There's anxiety, there's like a money, constant.
A lot of problems to solve.
There's never-ending problems to solve. So now, like I'm still learning this, and even now, like more even self-belief in kind of how to deal with relationships, and like even my romantic, marriage relationship, kids. It's always I'm still developing. So,
okay. But see, like I have a company, I want to sell more. What is the first step my company should take to build a good business, a good sales team, a good sales model, and good KPIs?
Yeah. Well, it's all about the people.
Okay.
To start right. If you have the right people.
You think we should start with the people, not the model?
Yeah. When you have it. I mean, look, if you already have good people,
okay,
people you can trust. Like if you have a great.
What is good people for you?
Well, it all depends, right? So what's a good child? Well, it all depends. Like in this case, let's say you've got someone who on your team who you've seen they've been able to just kind of solve things, and they may not have any sales experience, but they've shown success in solving things. Maybe they solved the customer success problem. Maybe they were a successful musician. Like they've shown success in places. You could take that person and say, look, can you figure out a new sales model? And they'll be able to, there's plenty of information out there they can find, they will be able to do that. So in this case, and if you don't have that person, and if you need to say that it's very common, right? Especially in Brazil, like I'm a CEO, it's pretty common people have like a VP of sales and they're really not a good fit, right? So
What is a good fit for someone in the sales team?
if you're not learning, so let's say you're an entrepreneur. If you have a sales executive and you're not learning from them, you feel like you have to teach them something, that's a problem.
Okay.
And that's not just for sales, that'd be for any function, right? Marketing, right? That's a problem.
Good.
So and usually we have this feeling, we know this is not the right person, but there's so many reasons why we can resist letting them go or finding someone new, right? But the sooner you can come to grips with that's not the right person, that you just don't trust them and need to find someone different, then that will help move things along. So let's say you've got someone on the team, and I do believe if you want to make a significant change, there's two things. You do need someone who's dedicated to it, and the CEO and a senior person needs to be involved in some way. In that case, let's say you have like you've got a sales team that started, it's like a small one. Right? Generally, if you have a business that's working, some rules of thumb would be most companies don't define we call it niche specifically enough, right? They still are kind of targeting too many types of companies, too many types of people.
Give me an example.
Well, let's say that if I'm a CRM company, right?
CRM,
like
okay.
or a sales technology.
Like what Salesforce does.
Yeah. Or let's just say like a sales application, or sales. Rather than saying, "Hey, any company with salespeople could use this," right? It's just too broad, and there's a lot of competitors. Everything is competitive now. It's much better to kind of get really, really focused on, okay, if you have even 5 or 10 customers, but which ones really have gotten the most value from it, paid the most, and were kind of needed it the most, and just focus on that type. So it might be, let's just say, customers who have commercial banking customers with very specific types of like financial team customers. Or if it was, instead of healthcare, you might say hospitals. Instead of hospitals, it might be hospitals that serve, do corporate benefit packages. So you try to be more and more specific, because when you do that, it makes it a lot easier to find those types of customers, a lot easier to understand their problems, and a lot easier to kind of create messaging that appeals to them. So do you want to be a big fish in a small pond? It's a lot easier to make the pond smaller than the fish bigger.
Oh, good. Okay. This is
Out of that one.
hypergrowth.
Yeah, right out of that one.
This is what we call, it's in Portuguese, is PIC. It's a perfil ideal de cliente. It's like ideal client. How does it say in English?
Ideal customer profile.
Ideal customer profile.
Ideal
yeah.
client
ICF.
profile. ICP.
Yeah. In Portuguese, it's PIC. Okay.
Yeah.
I read it in this
Yeah.
book. Yeah. And do you think we must define first this ideal client and then the model, or the model and test and define the ideal client?
Well, it kind of comes from either direction. Like what's working today? Because sometimes you have a model that works and you're like, we got to change the type of customer. And sometimes you've got a customer that works and you're like, we need to expand the model. So ultimately, it's kind of like in baseball in the United States, they say, what's more important, the pitcher or the catcher? Well, they're both important. So which one do you feel more confidence in? But usually, let's say you have an ideal customer. Typically, the easiest way to grow revenue is, and this is just a generalization, is to try to do bigger deals, to go up market. Now, this assumes that you are doing more of a people, like a sales process involves people. Right? There's lots of companies that have sales that they're very small, kind of transactional sales, and they may be selling online. In that case, so let's ignore that case for now. But if you have people involved, it's usually, if people can only do so many activities, whether they're meetings or emails, proposals, you grow revenue by doing fewer, bigger, better deals.
Okay, let's take a step back. What is an ideal client for you? Is like there is any definition for it? I mean, it's who buys and spends the most. Is the easiest one to buy?
Yeah, so there's two. If you think about two things, what typically, who is the fastest to buy or like the highest win rate? The ones who are most eager to buy and for the most money,
Okay.
right? So in other words, you create the most value for someone. And I think it's very important to differentiate what's the difference. Let's say you've tried to sell that, again, a small number, like even 5 customers, and one of them buys and 4 don't. Or maybe 10 customers and 2 buy, or you have 10 customers, maybe 2 are great and 8 are not that great. What's the difference between the companies where to whom you're a nice to have, and how is that different to the companies where you're a need to have? Because if you're a nice to have, at least in business to business, they're just not going to buy. There's too many other things going on. And one clue that you're a nice to have to a type of customer is, let's say you do a demo, and they're like, that's cool. And they don't call you back. They don't need you, right? You're a nice to have. You can tell a customer that needs you, they find you, they're like, oh, okay, I get this. Can you give me information? Great. They're helping drive the sale, usually, or at least it's easy to forget. It can take a lot of energy for a company to start to evaluate, buy, and implement something. It is a lot of work. And the bigger the company is, it's incredibly hard. So they have to really need you for them to go through all the effort to buy you and do something with you.
So I read in your book, and you teach us a model of how you did it in Salesforce. You got a lot of leads. You sent a lot of emails. You got some responses. Then you started qualifying them instead of just calling them to sell something. After the qualification, you started to try to sell to them.
Yep.
Exactly. What is the best model for you to implement in a company overall, talking, generally speaking?
Yeah. And by the way, I feel like we should start getting up and dancing soon with the background music.
Yeah,
right?
a lot
Like
of
a
music.
club. Yeah, like boom, boom, boom.
And there's some dinosaur walking behind you sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. I heard they're giving out candy. Maybe they can bring some in. Well, again, so it's kind of saying like the best model is like asking, what's the best eating system? Should I be vegan?
Eating.
Like, diet. Like, should I be
Okay, perfect.
vegan or paleo or vegetarian or carnivore? Or, well, it depends on the person. It depends. There is no best. It
Okay.
depends on, this is like self-awareness and self-knowledge is really important. So for some companies, if it's complex sales or hard to explain what you do, often like services companies, then having a content first model, like inbound marketing content to explain it for you helps.
Okay.
So there's a lot of like maybes, but I think it really comes down to, I think people want just an answer, right? Just tell me the answer. And there is no magic answer. You have to learn, you have to try things. You're going to do things that don't work. Right? You're going to try hiring certain people that don't work out before you know how to hire people who do. You have to try selling bigger deals and that not work until you realize how to do it. Maybe you try selling things online and that doesn't work until you figure it out. So just, I think, even towards getting the right model for someone, it's understanding it's going to be a journey. It's going to be something that honestly is going to be usually frustrating, more often than not, frustrating, confusing. Every day you feel like, I don't know what I'm doing. Kind of like life.
Yeah. So, but you are saying like there is no best model for every company, but like, is there a wrong model for every company?
Yeah, well, let's talk about business to business companies that have more of a product type. So I think let's go back to fundamental principles, and this is actually true of any company, is you have to start with sales specialization, because nothing else will work very well if you don't do this. And the way I explain this is, at least in sales, the history of sales was salespeople had to do their own prospecting, sell their own customers, and manage accounts. This has been changing. I think it's just the legacy of sales. And I don't know any sports team in the world, let's say a football team. Do you call it soccer or football here?
Soccer.
Soccer, okay, soccer. I don't know any soccer team where the coach would go to the team and say, look, everybody attack and everybody defend.
Yeah.
And everybody play goalie if you're there. It doesn't make any sense. So why would we tell all our salespeople to prospect and close and manage accounts and maybe get website leads? So that's where you start is what are the jobs that need to be done and dividing the team up so that everyone has a specialty. So if you have, where you end up with is you typically have in a B2B model, some outbound prospectors doing outbound lead generation, some inbound kind of lead responders responding to leads coming through a website or social media. Both of those are typically junior roles, and they pass the good opportunities, good sales meetings to salespeople who are kind of assigning new customers. And after that, you've got different jobs, people who are renewing, implementing customer success, account management. That's the starting point. Okay. So then going back, part of this is the idea of we need to separate the idea of lead generation from salespeople. So salespeople generally shouldn't prospect much. Right? Again, that's another kind of legacy approach that doesn't work as well as it should. So if we say, look, the driver to your business isn't the number of salespeople you have, it is lead generation. Lead generation could be for new customers, it could be kind of upselling for current customers. All right, so let's go back to that model you mentioned, which is if we have a way to drive leads in a predictable way, it could be through marketing, could be through outbound prospecting. So let's drive those, and then let's have a process. A junior person typically filters them, right? So if it's an outbound prospector, they're only trying to get the fewer, bigger, better opportunities to pass to their senior salesperson. If it's a marketing-driven lead, so with an inbound kind of lead responder, they're filtering through 1,000 webinar leads to find 5 good ones to pass to a salesperson. That's really important because salespeople they're not wired, and they shouldn't have to go through a whole bunch of random leads and to sort out and do their own qualification. It's just not a good use of their time. So for salespeople, it's much better to kind of have pre-filtered leads or meetings that they can take, focus on, and then move them through the sales cycle. And then you can take each of these steps, each function, the outbound prospecting or inbound lead response or sales, and break that whole job into its own set of steps. You mentioned outbound prospecting, and that, yes, identify your ideal customer, build a list, run campaigns, email, social media, calling, whatever, get responses, set up meetings, kind of pass the baton. But that set of steps can be different for each job you've got. That ultimately is incredibly important to get the machine, the assembly line going. You have the right people, the right jobs defined so they can work together as a team, and the handoff between teams is done in a smooth way.
See, back on 2009, I think, I started doing a lot of cold calls. And I was cold calling all day.
What were you selling?
I was selling, I was like a financial advisor. In Brazil.
That's a hard one.
Yeah, that's a hard one. It's a complex sale, right? But in Brazil, we had almost 500 financial advisors in all country. So nobody knew what was a financial advisor here.
Yeah, it's not many.
Not many. So in the States, everybody knows what is a financial advisor.
It's a huge industry. Yeah. There's probably 500 financial advisors in, 1 square mile of Los Angeles.
Yes, and here nobody knew it. So we didn't have to only sell, but to teach them what does it do and stuff. And I did almost 100 calls each day. Every day I was calling, and I did it like for maybe 3 years. And I got results, but it was very hard because I did like 100 calls, and I stayed all day calling only to talk maybe for 30 minutes or an hour tops with a good possible prospect to become a client maybe. And after I got some results, I started hiring some people, and I started to cut in parts the process of the selling. Dividing. So there was someone cold calling, and I called myself hot calling. So he cold called it, and I went to the meeting. So my day was only used in the best way possible, negotiating. And so this was how I grew. And then I had 50 financial advisors in the office. I sold this business and all this stuff. But as I grew using cold calling, and when I was reading your book, I, for the first time, read the term cold calling 2.0. It was like very different for me. What is the cold calling 2.0 exactly for you? What is the difference between this one and the cold calling 1.0?
Yeah, I think the difference is because when I started at Salesforce, I did some cold calling as well, and I'd done cold calling before. Um, Actually, I sold ads for the school newspaper when I was at Stanford, and I had a painting business for a summer when I would knock on doors, and I did a couple of things, but I'd never thought about it as a system. Salesforce.com was the first time that I sat down and did cold calling that way, and at that point, it didn't work for me. At least the traditional cold call. Cold calling does work, and it still works today. It just have to be the right market, the right. There's a lot of conditions. For me, it didn't work. I didn't like it. So what I created was using email at the time, and mass email at the time, and executives to get responses. So for me, creating a system to get a lot of appointments every month without having to cold call was the idea of, I hated the term cold calling 2.0. I just couldn't think of a better one. Basically, like getting appointments
But it's easy to understand.
without having to cold call. Now, I did do a type of cold call I called mapping calls. Because in this case, again, I was selling to companies rather than individuals. And so a lot of times the hard part was finding the right person. So if you're selling to, IBM, who do you even call? Because there might have, if you're selling to this VP of sales, there might be 20 VPs of sales.
Yes.
And so I would call in and kind of ask around, like, hey, who's the like a lost lamb? I'm just a bit lost. Like, I'm trying to find, the head of something or other. Like, and then I would get routed around. By the time I got referred to them, it wasn't cold anymore because it was like the CEO's assistant would be referring me to the CTO. But I think what I'll try to do is say, look, is there a systematic way to get up quality appointments? And quality is more important than quantity. That was different than the way that people had done it blindly, which is doing lots of calls. It's like more in the past, and people still do this, which is, calling's not working, do more calls. And today's version is emailing's not working, send more emails. We're only getting a 0.5% response rate, we'll send more. Like, come on, you got to stop back and rethink, how can we do something different so we're not just trying to do more of something that's not working?
You're asking me?
No, I'm just saying.
It was rhetorical, right?
Yeah, rhetorical. I kind of went to my mind like, in parenting, what am I doing in parenting that's not working? Lots of things. Lots and lots of things.
No, but I really understand you, because this is something I hear like almost on a daily basis from a lot of companies, like send more emails, call more, work harder, arrive earlier, and all this stuff.
And I have a bit of a digression, because you said work harder, right? So maybe I had a list of questions, maybe not. But the thing is, something has changed the last couple of years with the pandemic. It was already going to change, but this just brought it forward, right? This technology's on this trend, which is only going to accelerate, right? More apps, more content, more messages, more stuff. Our brains are struggling to keep up. The pandemic accelerated that because more went online and we're doing more stuff on the screen. So our brains, there's just more anxiety too. There's a lot of things kind of eating at our energy levels, our emotional energy levels, or our mental energy levels. And so I've noticed a lot of executives, and having been through this, are just like more tired than ever, right? Because there's also more responsibility. So it's not about even like physically moving. It's just this kind of emotional, mental load on us. And so energy, like to me, like tactics and strategy are important, but even more fundamental is kind of the emotional smarts of executives. I can read a book, but there's something different now, which is, okay, does this feel right? I'm not just thinking about it. Like I can mentally think of the right thing to do, but does it feel right? Do I have the energy to do this? Do I have the energy to create a good relationship with my team? Do I have the energy to create a good kind of real relationship with my customers? When you're tired and exhausted, think about this. Like when I go home, if I'm tired and exhausted, it's easy for me to snap at my kids. Or, I could say it to my wife, but then she'd bite my head off. But, it's easy. And I see that if my wife is tired, she'll snap. If I'm an employee, why would I want to work for a company when I go to a meeting with my manager and it feels like going to the dentist? If my manager or executive is tired and exhausted, it's like going to a dentist, right? Especially over Zoom calls. So to me, even more fundamentally now, which is new, it's always been there, but now it's even more important, is this idea of emotional smarts, kind of personal energy or executive. How do you take care of yourself? How do you take care of the team? How do you create relationships over Zoom, over digital relationships now that feel real? Because we can't really go back to in person as much. And everyone's kind of like busy, tired, exhausted.
Yeah, but you see, you
Adding more work isn't going to solve that.
perfectly pointed to the problem. Like it's really a problem. I think a lot of people I know are eternally exhausted. But how exactly
It's
we
everybody with kids, right?
usually yes,
Yeah.
and usually they're on the low
Small
wage,
ones. Oh yeah,
small ones.
That's a hard end.
But what may be the solution to not resolve all of that, but start to improve a little and become, from a company perspective, start to be less exhausted from time to
Yeah.
time and work better, not only harder?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So I don't have a single answer, but I've got some ideas. I do some things that do work. I'll give you a couple. So one of them is, there's this weird thing in corporate culture, and I'm not as familiar with Brazil this way, but in the States, of a CEO feeling like I need to appear clear and confident to my people, to my executives, so that they don't get scared, right?
Okay.
Because they're leaning on me to provide vision and direction.
You mean the leader showing
Confidence, right?
Confidence,
I know.
okay.
I know what we need to do. We're going to do it. And the team. And meanwhile, leaders get scared and have doubt and anxiety, and they're human. Like this, it's ridiculous to think that there's some leader who doesn't get nervous, scared, have self doubt and anxiety. That's not true. That's an illusion. Like
so
what?
showing confidence. Okay, but,
So-
but by showing confidence, you mean showing people you know the way, you're leading the way, and this way is the way that will take us to where we want to
Well,
go.
I'm a leader. I want my team. I don't want my team to be scared.
Okay,
Even
because
though
if
we
they're
have-
scared, they are more exhausted and anxiety,
they might
and
leave, and
Okay.
I don't want to look weak to my team. Also, or to my investors.
Okay.
Right. So there's a lot of, but at the same time, the executives, they're like, okay, I need to show my CEO that I'm confident that I can do this. I can't show my weakness, that my own doubt, because I don't want them to lose faith in me. So it's kind of like they're both sides are lying to each other about the same thing, and like just wasting a lot of energy, kind of like the shell game. Now, look, you want to practice confidence, right? It's kind of, all right, I'm feeling uncertain, and especially if you're most people and executives are often in situations every day, like, or parents, right? I don't know what's going to happen today. I don't. Like, some problem can come out of the sky, and so there's this practice of self confidence and belief, but it's when it goes too far where it's not being authentic. It's kind of I'm putting on a mask to help to change. I'm scared because I'm scared that my team will get scared. So I think it's for leaders starting, and the higher the better, because they set the tone, is to start to say, look, I don't, just be more honest, open about, I don't know what's going to happen, or I'm nervous about this, and realizing too, I think it does help that, like, we're going to get through it somehow. But, or heck, you know what? Hey, everybody, just so you know, I've started a divorce. All right. I'm just letting you know in case I seem off. Or there's a sick, like every human there's divorce, death, sickness, tax burdens, financial issues. There's a whole list of problems people have, and leaders have the same list. So I think it's okay. It's healthier to stop feeling like they need to hide that part, and I think the pandemic has helped. People are mixing personal lives and business lives more, but to open up and kind of be more real that way. And maybe whether that's with problems or maybe just joking around, like, why are board meetings so damn serious? They can be, like, not in Brazil. Like, I'm on a board of a company in Brazil, in Nuvini, and there's a lot more life. Sometimes it can be just so boring and serious. Like, why? Why can't people just like joking around, being a little silly,
That's a good question.
being honest, and still yet having that confidence of having experience and it's being a bit more of just a person. interact with other people versus the business person interacting with other business people. So whether that's your team, the market. So I think one of the most underused resources that a company has is not having their leader or leaders online in some way, sharing themselves. A mix of like business advice or life advice. It doesn't really matter. It's just as long as they're kind of being themselves online. And I think that's something that is missing in a way to kind of help scale themselves, to create more connection to their teams and to the market and customers digitally, because that's just where a lot of this is going. So
Okay. Yeah.
that's one place to start. That's kind of a long answer to a
And
question.
that's a good reflection because I really talking using myself as an example. Sometimes I feel extremely tired, and I feel responsible for the company.
Yeah, people.
And I don't want to show people that I'm tired. And instead of working less or taking a nap or something, I do the opposite. I work more to show them like the way I want them to go.
Yeah, and naps are awesome. I mean, people should take more naps, right? I'm trying. Yeah, it's like
Are you taking a lot of naps nowadays?
not as many as I would like, just because like school schedules and it's hard for me to nap.
How's your schedule today? Like your daily today basis?
Pretty nice these days compared to the past. Actually, I have on YouTube. There's a couple videos. It's like if you search on YouTube for the Aaron Ross Day in a Life, they're from like 3 or 4 years ago. It's just like crazy. But today it looks like I get up at 6:30 in the morning.
6:30. Okay.
Yep. School. I do most of the school, kind of get kids ready, and we have a nanny. There's help, but still, like from 6:30 to like 9 is either getting kids ready, taking kids to school, and then after that, so a lot of days there's this one 5-year-old stays at home 3 days a week, so I'll play with her for a while, and then I usually do some work. I don't know. There's always like stuff. There's always like shit to do. Like it's annoying. Like I have to pick up passports to this, or I got to drop the dogs off here and do some email. Try to go for a walk, exercise, and then there's more kids pickups. Play with kids in the afternoon, dinner, put the kids to bed, talk to my wife, hopefully for a bit, and try to go to sleep. So I don't work that much right now. I do. By the way, I do need to make money. Right. I started Salesforce, but not early enough. And having 10 children is high motivation because we spend millions of reais a year. So not $1 million US dollars, but probably close to it on the family per year for different reasons. Just, it's amazing how it adds up. It's unbelievable. So I do need to make money. But right now, this period of, it's been a couple months, there's a few months where I'm kind of taking a break where I just don't have the energy yet. I don't feel like, it's more of like a feeling, an alignment, or how do I explain, like intuition? I don't know the right words. Just say like, it's just not time to kind of like dig in. And I'm just kind of resting and try to take care of myself, mostly physically, like sleep, exercise, playing. I'm not inspired to write much.
No?
No, I do have sometimes. Like I have a newsletter and I have some things there, but last
What
month or so,
inspires you today?
not much, honestly.
Really?
No, meeting people, maybe like meet people in person. If I think actually meeting people in person, like got to meet Tiago when he's here. I got to meet Camila Ferrani today for the first time after texting Pierre Sherman in a couple days. Been meeting people. I'm reading a lot of like fantasy books.
Really?
So
Are you
I'm
watching
taking
Rings
some
of
fighting
Power?
classes actually.
Are you watching Rings of Power?
No, I don't watch a lot of TV much. It's just so much. It's a much bigger investment. Like by the time people are asleep or in bed, like I just don't want to watch things usually. On the airplane, I watch some Black Mirror.
Black Mirror.
Yeah, I like that. But
That's great. Yeah. But like, were you always like that, or like, do you feel you were more inspired when you were
there's
younger?
definitely times I've been very inspired by things. It comes and goes, right? So very inspired to write the predictable revenue book, ACA to BC Bell, and that was over a course of years. I kind of get inspired at different times and do a blog post, and later collected them. I was inspired to do the books just different times. It just has been, I got burned out 3 or 4 years ago between like lots of young kids, babies, lots of kids, just lots of total kids, supporting everyone physically, emotionally, financially, and trapped in a business I didn't really like in the North American, partner. So I was just burned out as a human and didn't want to create content. And I've been burned out. The pandemic helped. I started to feel a little more inspired again, like this emotional smart, emotional, like executive energy has been inspiring. To this moment, I'm not. Like actually, well, talking to you helps, but just in like the last few weeks, it comes and goes.
But
And
like, you don't feel that inspired. But on the other hand, what troubles you today? I mean,
do you want a list? I
yeah, from
yeah,
top
okay,
down,
okay.
yeah, like the
Well,
top three
yeah,
things
okay.
that troubles
Well,
you,
I would say, um,
and it can be everything, like from
yeah,
outside, from inside.
yeah.
Inside.
Well, like you were going back to saying, with your team, like you get tired. And like I don't even know you, but I know that you're gonna have problems, right? Because everybody does. Yes. So I actually don't. I'm gonna replace. Yeah, I think there's a lot of like financial juggling. It's always bothersome because I have so many kids and responsibilities and like money in two different countries and making money. It's always for someone who wrote the book on predictable revenue. Mine, I make a lot, but it's very unpredictable, like in lumps, right? That's one. But I also have a lot of having a big family, lots of financial responsibilities has created. I have a lot of financial confidence, right? I think a lot of people want financial abundance, but really, even better is financial confidence. That's one. I would say though,
You mean you don't feel financially confident? You feel financially abundant?
reverse, right?
Reverse?
People want abundance. They want a lot of money.
Yeah.
But even more important, I think, is financial confidence, which is no matter what happens, you can deal with it.
But this troubles you today.
Um, it's not so much a trouble as it's like something I'm always like juggling. It's like tiring. It's also inspiring. I feel like I have learned so much, but I don't know how to put it into words yet. It's more of a almost like a spiritual path, like money, confidence, and how it kind of comes and goes, right? It's like I make a lot of money not through working the number of hours, and this has been true for years and years. It's never been the number of hours I work. It's kind of this Tai Chi thing I do, which is looking for kind of in my heart where do I feel the right path is, and pursuing that, and seeing how it comes up. Like I would never have thought the way that I would make a lot of money is by having children. I make a lot of money because I had a big family. I didn't make a lot of money and then have kids. I made a lot of money because I had to, a big family. That's why I was going to publish the book, but then I like, okay, I got to publish it. And I got to get a partner. I got to, it's like, so, and that's a whole other podcast, I think. I think I'm troubled by, I would like to be inspired. I would like to have more energy, but I just don't. So I've been letting that go of just kind of practicing being where I am and not second guessing myself and not wanting, like, I know that's going to come. Like, I'm going to be inspired again. And trying to control that or like fight that has not helped. So I'm just like relaxing into it. Like the more I relax and just kind of rest, that will come and do things that feel good, like meeting people, talking to people, walking, exercising. It's going back to like just things that feel good that kind of feed me and letting the rest come, which is very different than corporate culture and like the business culture, which is if you want X, you got to do Y. So I'm for years like letting go of this kind of linear equation, which is again funny from the guy from predictable revenue, right? So the way I live and the way I make money is completely different than the book. The book works for businesses, but not for me. Think of a third thing. Those are two things. I'm trying to think of a third thing. Yeah. Third thing, is just general body tiredness, like traveling, jet lag. I noticed I'm 50, so just trying to. That's like my main priority is sleep, some exercise, and like my relationships with my children, my partner, friends. And actually, funny thing is, all of those will help me make money, but it's not. I don't have any. It's like it's not linear, right? For me, it's not working 10 hours and making X dollars. They're not connected. I can't explain it where I do things that feel right, but then money comes from other places, and that's been like that for 10 or 15 years.
Oh, but that's good.
Yeah, it works for me. I can't explain it though. It's like trusting. It's like, do you believe in a higher power?
Yeah,
Me too.
That was my next question. Like, how do you feel spiritually? Do you believe in something?
100%. Yeah. I was just saying. Like,
can you define it or something? Like you define yourself as something?
So I've done ayahuasca 5 times in like 10 years. 4 times in Los Angeles, 1 time in Scotland. And it's impossible. Have you ever tried it?
No, but I have a lot of friends that do.
Yeah, and it's like it's almost like how can you become a spirit temporarily to kind of look down on life, and every time is different. So through that, I believe 100%. I always did believe, but then I feel like I experienced it, being connected to a higher power. How can I explain it? I put a lot of stock into. Have you heard about the simulation theory? Right, the
Simulation?
life is our life is a simulation.
I think I did, but not sure.
Elon Musk, I think, made it more popular, which is saying like it's more likely that we live in a simulation because any culture that became advanced could create
Mhm.
uh, virtual worlds that are indistinguishable for the
Mhm.
inhabitants, and you could replicate them, create infinity of them. So it's more likely that we're in one of those than it is that we're kind of in an original reality.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I think that's more likely than we're in. It's like some real reality.
But do you
But
believe in
I
it?
don't know. Doesn't I? The thing is, it doesn't really matter because
Uh-huh.
the thing is, like, it's almost like if this is a game, it's so real, it doesn't matter,
Yeah, okay.
right? Life is real, feelings are real. It's like a interesting thought experiment.
But have you
But I,
had any God experience? Like, did you have any experience like with something impossible happening or
yeah, a lot of
God
times,
talking to
yeah,
you?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of times, like it's through a lot of nudging of, I don't use the word God, but say God or higher power to like,
Mhm.
have so many kids, right? And that over my fears of having so many children and like just different, and it's like amazing. Other nudges. So yes, I've had messages
Really?
and that have
Can
helped
you
me.
share one of them?
Um,
I mean, I got some message like this year God talked to me.
yeah,
Yeah, it was the first time. It was so crazy, so
yeah,
crazy. I talked to my audience one time, and that's when I became a Christian. I think
yep,
we call it in English, and it was something impossible to happen. And I was reading the Bible for 2 years and a half, reading Proverbs, and I started reading the Bible because I wanted to improve my business. And Proverbs have a lot
sure,
of counsels for our life. And then I started making questions, and I was talking to a friend, and that friend made me like almost a challenge to ask if God really exists. And I went to my bathroom late at night, and I said, God, if you exist, give me a message in 7 days. And God didn't give me the message in 7 days, but in the eighth day, He gave me a message, and a guy came to me and he started talking all about my past, impossible things, and then he told me something about the future, and then a lot of things started to happen, and it was impossible because nobody knew what he told me about my past, and this was the proof for me that God exists,
oh yeah,
and everything started getting crazy in my life. So, for example, today I am an entrepreneur. I made a lot. I make a lot of money. I talk to a lot of people, 20 million people every month in Brazil. But I feel my message is to, in a way, talk about God or a high power to people that want or seek for it, but maybe is similar to me because I'm very pragmatic, and I use
sure.
it to be the one that feel that something bigger exists, but I was not sure what was it. So I feel it's part of my message here in the world. But did you feel something like that, or you have any message, any contact?
Yeah, I felt like that kind of the practical, like I kind of felt like a higher power, but didn't really
Uh-huh.
believe it until 12 years ago.
12 years.
Yeah, reached out and I had a very
You
blunt
were
message about,
38 years.
yeah, 38, 39, around that, maybe 13 years ago.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact, but basically it was kind of like, hey, you're being a dumbass. You gotta do this other thing. And
Really?
yeah, well, I'm paraphrasing. They didn't say that, but I just funny you just say it that way. But it's like, no, I was taking the wrong track. And well, I go to the
In
right
the
track.
business, you mean in
It's
life?
life. It's
Life.
life, different place. It wasn't business. I think that the messages I've gotten from higher power around business specifically have usually been like, usually, I don't get a lot. Like, hey, it's going to be okay. You have to trust, right? And I think that, and to kind of go for it, less fear, to practice like do what feels right,
Mhm.
even if it doesn't make logical sense. So I'll give you an example. Like, just thinking back years ago, we were gonna go on a vacation with the family.
Okay.
It felt right to go on vacation to this place called Missouri. And the plane, with a big family, I don't remember how many kids we had at the time, like 7, I don't know, it was a lot. Any trip costs a lot of money. They take, one plane ticket that's $300 times 12, right? So, and you need 2 cars so, but I remember we kind of like decided to go on this trip. We booked the hotel, the resort, and we didn't have money for the plane tickets. So we're like, okay, it'll just come if it's the right thing. And I don't remember how the money came in, but like 2 days before we were supposed to leave, the money came in from someplace to buy the plane tickets. And a lot of that has happened a lot over the years in terms of the money. I get the money that I need, not what I want. All the time. So by now, after years, it takes about 7 years to, just trust, like, okay, if I try to think ahead and make a plan. And this is actually a very specific message from an ayahuasca like 3 years ago. If I try to have a spreadsheet towards, let's say moving the family between countries and how to pay for that over 6 months, because that's crazy expensive. Like, again, just the plane tickets is like $15,000 alone, much less. So that I can't make a plan to say, here's how I'm going to pay for it. I have to trust that going there is the right thing, and that day by day, if I just take each day by day, it'll work out. And it happened where, like, every day, I don't know, it just worked out. And like, for example, like the shipping company, they got some stuff wrong, and so they cut the bill down by a lot, and then they delayed the payment by 2 months. So just things happen to like make it. I explain. Yeah, it's like that linear way of thinking of, if I need to do X, I need to do Y, or that doesn't work for me to accomplish big things, right? It's more about listening to my intuition, which is really kind of the way for a couple of years, I don't get messages from my guides or God directly the same way. I kind of get it through feeling. So they have me like practicing listening to myself, like kind of, it's just like a feeling in my heart or chest or stomach or some body that feels right. Kind of do that, and it'll work out. And for me, it can be hard to sort out fear, what the fear versus the feel right. So I'm still kind of learning through this, but I for sure 100% know that there's a higher power, that life and our challenges are meant to kind of us to grow. Maybe for I don't know what it's like to be you, but for me to grow, it's more of a test and challenge and a way to grow and learn confidence and belief, not to make it easy.
Wow. It's so good to hear this from you. It's very, very special.
Yep.
And congratulations on the family. Big family.
It's amazing. Yeah, I never wanted it never occurred to me to have a big family, but even to adopt. But yeah, having a big family that's very diverse, and it's amazing. Yeah, I really love my family, and I never would have occurred to me when I was in my 30s or 20s. It's like, okay, I'll have a family someday. Like, and now that I've got them, like, oh my God, I love them so much. And yeah, they can drive me crazy, because anyone, same thing. But yeah, I miss them, and really, I was 2 nights ago, it's like crying in bed. So I'm like, life is sometimes so. This goes back to, there's so much administrivia in our life, right? Kids go to school. I have like errands to run. It's almost feel like life, I'm being kept away from the people I want to spend the time with the most. And it's just, that's like a big problem right now. Going back to the third problem, which is how to, restructure. That's like a next thing, like a next, quest, path thing from God. Because I wouldn't have been feeling that if it wasn't kind of something to do next, which is how to restructure our lives to be able to do more things together. Which for us, we have a vision of like moving to a farm in Scotland. And we've always really wanted to be outdoors and more in nature and have the kids out there and do homeschooling, at least the younger ones, right? There's some kids who are kind of in college and high school, and every kid's different. But that's like next part of the path. I don't know when that'll happen. It feels more like a year or two, but what I've learned too is that any kind of projections or expectations of how long things will take are completely wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know, one more fun fact is that people talk about like envisioning and so anytime, the only thing that works for me is I can kind of envision the feelings I want. If I ever try to envision a specific future, it never works out that way. It works out some other way. right? So let's say I wanted to have more love and not be lonely when I was younger. What would that entail? Like, I can't remember what I would have thought of, maybe like being married. It wouldn't have occurred to me to be like 10 kids. Oh, okay. I want to make a lot of money. Okay. Back when I was younger, it would never have occurred to me. I would do that because I would have a big family. So that it's like, and now if I can envision it, I know it's not going to happen that way. It's going to be some surprising twist to get me to the feeling I want of adventure, fun, love, or laughter. So it's, yeah, the visioning thing hasn't worked for me that way.
See, for me, I learned something from that. When God talked to me on the 8th day and not on the 7th, one friend told me it happened because God wanted to show me that He exists, but the things happens when He wants and
Yeah,
not
exactly.
me.
Yeah.
So this happens to show that it will happen, but not on our time
No.
and the way we want it.
No,
Because we're not in control. This is what I believe in, and so cool. But I need to ask you another question.
Okay.
Because before we finish here, and it's so cool to talk to you with a lot of experience and reflection from the life, a lot of results, a lot of pain, and a lot of success.
Sure.
Also, big family. Because I need my help for my company, because we sell a lot of B2C.
Yep.
We sell to the B2C much more than we sell to B2B.
Yep.
And I'll not go so deep into our company because of the time here. But when I was reading your book, you showed us a good model for B2B that I implemented, and it works really. And I know you know it because you did it in a lot of companies. But when we're talking on B2C, do you think like there's a better model of doing it, or at least some things we must have in mind, or a rule of thumb we have to have in mind to don't make a great mistake or something when we're selling to B2C, like in large scale and low ticket, when we can't put like someone in the phone to sell something so cheap?
Yeah. B2C is not my real expertise, but I will say that from my experience in B2C especially, it's a lot easier for people to buy things, especially courses and things they want to learn, than it is for them to complete them.
Yes.
And so this idea of customer success, like, first of all, you can't make everybody successful, but really keeping in mind, okay, maybe we can sell something, but how can we sell something that we feel like is actually giving people the best chance to get the value from it, knowing that people will impulsively buy, but then maybe they never actually follow up on it at all. I mean, some people will always do that. So I think it's just trying to always that ever-changing, what can we deliver that will make our customers successful? Even, I just think of like online, like ads, like how to, lose 20 pounds in 4 weeks. Yeah, I mean, people can do that, but how can you, it's not like feel good about your product because it's really helping people at the same time. It's easy to lose sight of that in the search for, we're trying to grow revenue. So we want to grow revenue at the same time that we grow also customer success, hand in hand, especially as the world gets more connected, in word of mouth and recommendations and all that continue to kind of become the people just talk.
So you mean, yeah, we in the urge to increase revenue, we should not forget to increase the NPS and the quality of the product.
Yep.
This is your advice,
Yeah,
right?
and I think too, for a lot of consumers, I would think that this is similar. So in B2B, it's how can you go up market too? So some companies end up doing higher end courses or masterminds. It's not right for every company, but just thinking there's certain segments of this consumers that want like a higher level of service or course or hand holding, right? Kind of the done for you. So that might be another way to think about evolving a model. So sometimes adding a part of the model that's not as scalable is actually good, because you can give people more value, make more money, and give them better service
Okay.
without knowing anything about your business other than sell.
But someday you will visit us and help us a lot,
Yeah.
because I feel we have a lot of things to do.
Sure.
Really.
Everybody, and the bigger you get, probably the more things there will be to do.
Yeah, of course. Aaron, do you have any like final message that you must leave before we end it? For everybody listening to us?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, For me, if there's something in you where you have a belief, like I call it a knowing, right? A knowing, like maybe it's a knowing that you'll make a lot of money, or maybe it's a knowing that you will have kids, or maybe it's a knowing that you will get your health will get better, or maybe it's a knowing that you should be riding horses, or you should to travel someplace. There's so many types. Again, this is I believe, and I've had these knowings. I'll give you an example. Like I always knew I'd make a lot of money, even when I was I don't remember, maybe 20s. I didn't know how. I also had this knowing that somehow I'll be involved with like a hit musical song someday. I have no idea.
Do you play something?
I don't know. I'm not going to be the one writing it. Maybe my daughter, but I have
okay.
no idea. I have no idea. It's just like this weird. I don't understand this one. But I think if you have that, trust it. You may not. And this is. I've had the music one for years and years. So it might be something that happens in a year. It might be 20 years. But know that it's a real thing, right? And to trust that, and to it. You may not need to do something with it yet, but I mean, there's a higher power. There are those kind of directional things in your life that you have, and to trust it, and to trust that the things in your life are there to help you to move forward someplace for the future. You may not know where it is, but they're there for a reason.
Okay.
Painful as it can be.
Good advice. Good advice. Anybody want to follow you, your content, your newsletter? How can people discover you?
I think the best place is receitaprevisível.com, because that's the business here in Brazil. And I think even for my other content, my newsletter, they're going to translate it into Portuguese here.
Okay. So we'll leave the link below. Thank you very much, Aaron.